At 50, Gloria thought she had it all: a stable marriage, a comfortable life, and a loving family. Then, without warning, her world crumbled. Her husband abandoned her while she was pregnant, leaving her and their young daughter with nothing but uncertainty. Shunned by her community and facing the daunting prospect of bringing a new life into the world alone, Gloria's faith in humanity was hanging by a thread. That's when James, a widowed farmer struggling to raise his 2 sons, crossed her path. His simple act of kindness, offering them shelter on his modest farm, would change both their lives forever. Could these 2 broken souls, brought together by circumstance, find the courage to trust in love again? Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Gloria's hands trembled as she stared at the wedding photograph. On her bedside table, 23 years of marriage captured in a single moment. She in her cream-colored dress, David beaming in his tailored suit. The glass had cracked recently, a thin line splitting their joined hands apart. She hadn't bothered to replace it. Now that crack seemed prophetic. The business letter lay open on her lap, its corporate letterhead stark against the floral bedspread her mother had given them as an anniversary gift. "Dear Mrs. Harrison," it began formally, "regarding the transfer of assets from your joint account." She read it again, willing the words to change, but they remained stubbornly fixed on the page. David had emptied their accounts 3 weeks ago, the same day he'd kissed her goodbye and said he was heading to a real estate conference in Phoenix. "Mom?" Amy's voice drifted up from downstairs. "Is Dad calling tonight?" Gloria quickly wiped, her eyes tucking the letter into her drawer. At 12, Amy was too young to shoulder this burden, too young to understand how thoroughly their lives had just been upended. "Not tonight, sweetheart. He's probably still in meetings." She descended the stairs slowly, one hand unconsciously resting on her slightly swollen belly. At 50, this pregnancy had been unexpected. A miracle, David had called it just 2 months ago. Now she wondered if it had been the catalyst for his departure. Amy sat at the kitchen table, homework spread before her, dark hair falling. In her face, just like her father's. "I made mac and cheese," she announced proudly. "There's enough for Dad, too, if he comes home early." Gloria's heart clenched. "That's thoughtful of you, darling. Let's have our dinner while it's hot." The kitchen still held traces of their normal life. David's coffee mug in the dish rack, his reading glasses on the counter, his jacket hung by the door. But the silence where his presence should be grew louder each day. No morning kisses, no evening news discussions, no gentle teasing over Amy's vegetarian phases. "Mrs. Peterson asked about Dad today," Amy said, pushing her food around the plate. "She said she saw him at the grocery store with some lady last week. But that's wrong, right? Because he's in Phoenix?" The mac and cheese turned to ash in Gloria's mouth. Mrs. Peterson, always the neighborhood gossip, always the first to know everyone's business. "Sometimes people make mistakes," she managed. "It probably just looked like Dad." But she knew. Deep down, she'd known something was wrong for months. The late nights at the office, the new cologne, the password on his phone. She'd dismissed each sign, trusted each explanation. After all, they were the perfect couple, the successful real estate agent and his devoted wife, active in their church, respected in their community. They'd tried for years to give Amy a sibling, weathered the disappointments together. This baby was supposed to be their second chance, their miracle. The doorbell rang, startling them both. Gloria's heart leaped, but no, David had a key. He wouldn't ring. Through the peephole, she saw Sarah from their church, holding what looked like a casserole dish. "Gloria, dear," Sarah's voice was honey-sweet with concern. "We missed you at Bible study today. I brought you some chicken pot pie. I know how pregnancy cravings can be." The pity in her eyes said everything. She knew. They all knew. "Thank you, Sarah. That's very kind." Gloria took the dish, trying to maintain her dignity. "If you need anything, well, we're all praying for you. Such a difficult situation." Sarah's gaze drifted to Gloria's stomach. "At your age, especially," the words hung between them, heavy with judgment. Gloria closed the door before Sarah could say more. But the damage was done. By tomorrow, everyone at church would be talking. The whispers would spread through their comfortable suburban community like wildfire. Later that night, after Amy was asleep, Gloria sat in David's study, surrounded by the artifacts of their life together. His diplomas on the wall, their vacation, photos, the awards from the real estate board. She opened his laptop. He'd always used the same password, Amy's birthday. The browser history told its story in clinical detail. Apartment rentals in Phoenix, divorce attorneys, flight bookings, and emails to someone named Melissa, full of promises and plans stretching back 6 months. Gloria closed the laptop and looked at her reflection in the dark window. A woman of 50 stared back, her blonde hair streaked with silver, laugh lines etched around her eyes. Not young anymore, but not old either. Just invisible enough it seemed to be discarded. The baby kicked, a gentle flutter beneath her ribs. A reminder that whatever came next, she wasn't truly alone. She had Amy's love, this new life growing inside her, and somewhere deep within, a strength she'd forgotten she possessed. She picked up the wedding photo from David's desk, identical to the one by her bed. No crack in this glass, but the fissures in the life it represented were just as real. Tomorrow, she would have to start figuring out their future. But tonight, she allowed herself to mourn the past as the suburban silence wrapped around her. Like a shroud, the bank statements spread across the kitchen table like fallen leaves, each page telling the same story. Zero balance, transfer completed, account closed. Gloria had spent the morning visiting every bank where they held joint accounts, each time receiving the same apologetic look from the tellers. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Harrison, but as a joint account." "Holder, your husband had every legal right to withdraw the funds. Their checking account, their savings, even Amy's college fund, all emptied. Only her personal account remained untouched, holding barely enough to cover a month's expenses. David had planned this methodically, executing his escape with the same attention to detail that had made him such a successful realtor. Her phone buzzed, a text from David. "My lawyer will be in touch. I'm sorry it had to be this way." Sorry. As if the word could encompass the magnitude of his betrayal. As if it could erase 23 years of shared life, shared dreams, shared responsibilities. The front door opened, and Amy's voice called out, "Mom, why wasn't Dad's car at the office? Mrs. Taylor said he's moved to Phoenix permanently." Gloria's hands clenched around the bank statements. Of course, Karen Taylor would tell Amy that woman had never missed an opportunity to spread news, especially the painful kind. She should have picked Amy up from school herself, should have protected her from finding out this way. "Come here, sweetheart," Gloria patted the chair beside her. "We need to talk." Amy's face crumpled as understanding dawned. "He's really not coming back, is he?" "No, honey, he's not. But what about the baby? What about me?" Amy's voice broke, and Gloria pulled her close, feeling her daughter's tears soak into her shoulder. "We have each other," Gloria whispered, trying to sound stronger than she felt. "And the baby, we're still a family." That evening, as Amy slept fitfully upstairs, Gloria faced the stark reality of their situation. The mortgage payment was due. Next week, the credit cards were in David's name. Her part-time job at the library wouldn't cover even half their expenses. And in 5 months, they'd have a newborn to care for. She opened her jewelry box, cataloguing potential assets. Her engagement ring, 2 carats, princess cut, the anniversary bracelet, the pearl necklace from their 10th anniversary, each piece of memory, now transformed into mere collateral. Her phone buzzed again, a longer message this time. "I've sent the divorce papers to your email. Please don't make this difficult. Melissa and I want to start fresh. You're a strong woman, Gloria. You'll figure something out." Strong. The word mocked her. She'd been strong because she'd had a partner, or so she'd thought. Now she felt as fragile as the delicate teacup her grandmother had given her, the one David had broken last month and apologized for so profusely. Had he known then that he was leaving? Had he already been planning his exit, while holding her hand at doctor's appointments, while discussing names for the baby? A soft knock at the front door startled her. Through the peephole, she saw David, the first time in 3 weeks. He looked different somehow, younger in his expensive new jacket, his hair freshly cut. She opened the door, but left the security chain on. "What do you want?" "I came for my files, my diplomas, the client lists." His voice was businesslike, as if he were handling a routine transaction. At midnight, I figured it would be easier for Amy. Of course, heaven forbid he face the consequences of his actions in daylight. Gloria closed the door, removed the chain, and let him in. They moved through the house like ghosts, neither speaking as he collected his belongings. In his study, he paused at the photo of Amy's birth. "I never meant to hurt anyone," he said quietly. Gloria watched him pack the last of his awards. "You didn't just hurt us, David, you destroyed us." He had no answer for that. At the door, he hesitated. "The baby is no longer your concern." Gloria's voice was ice. "You've made that very clear." After he left, Gloria sat in the darkness, listening to the echoes of his footsteps fade away. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, calls from lawyers, questions from Amy, judgments from neighbors, but tonight she allowed herself to feel the full weight of her fear, her rage, her grief. Tomorrow she would be strong. Tonight she would break. Upstairs, Amy called out in her sleep, "Daddy!" Gloria wiped her eyes and went to comfort her daughter, knowing this was just the beginning of their new reality. The eviction notice arrived on a Tuesday, cream-colored paper in a white envelope, looking deceptively like any other piece of mail. Gloria read it 3 times before the words made sense. 30 days to vacate. The mortgage hadn't just been in David's name, the house had been too. She'd trusted him to handle all the financial arrangements, just as she'd trusted him with everything else. "Mom?" Amy stood in the doorway of their living room, still in her school uniform. "Why are there boxes in the garage?" Gloria folded the notice carefully, buying time. "We're going to be moving, sweetheart." Moving. But what? About my room, my school, Jenny's birthday party next month. Each question was a knife to Gloria's heart. She patted the couch beside her, and Amy sat down, her backpack still on. Sometimes life gives us unexpected changes. We need to be brave and face them together. "Is this because of Dad?" "Yes, honey. The house, it belongs to him." Amy's face darkened. "I hate him." "Don't!" Gloria stroked her daughter's hair. "Hate only hurts the person carrying it." But later that night, alone in her room, Gloria understood Amy's sentiment all too well. She'd spent the evening making calls to friends from church, to distant relatives, to real estate agents. The responses varied in kindness, but not in substance. No one wanted to rent to an unemployed, pregnant 50-year-old with a child. Sarah from church had been particularly painful. "Of course we'd love to help, but our guest room is being renovated. Have you considered one of those women's shelters? I hear they're very accommodating." The judgment in her voice was clear. In their comfortable suburban community, divorce was treated like a contagious disease. Former friends crossed the street to avoid conversations. Invitations dried up. Even Amy's best friend Jenny was no longer allowed to come over. "My mum says it's complicated," Jenny had told Amy at school, "but we can still talk at lunch." Gloria stood at her bedroom window, watching the neighbors' lights go out one by one. This view had been her comfort for 20 years. The familiar rhythm of suburban life, kids playing in sprinklers during summer, Christmas lights in winter. Now each darkened window felt like another door closing. Her phone buzzed with a text from David's lawyer. "Mr. Harrison has generously offered to cover moving expenses to a location of your choice, provided it's at least 50 miles from his new residence in Phoenix." Generous, as if forcing them into exile was a kindness. Gloria's hand went to her growing belly, feeling the baby's flutter of movement. "We'll figure this out," she whispered, to the baby and herself. The next day, she visited the bank again, this time to apply for a loan. The loan officer, a young man who couldn't meet her eyes, explained that without current employment or collateral, there was nothing they could do, even with my credit score. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Harrison, but your credit history is complicated." Now, of course it was. All those joint accounts David had closed, the missed mortgage payment, Her pristine credit score had been another casualty of his betrayal. That evening, Gloria and Amy sat among half-packed boxes, eating takeout because most of the kitchen was already wrapped up. Amy pushed her food around the plate. "Becky's mom is looking for someone to help with their bookkeeping," Amy said suddenly. "I heard her talking about it at school. Maybe you could do that." Gloria smiled at her daughter's attempt to help. "Maybe, but right now we need to focus on finding a place to live. Jenny said her uncle has an apartment building. It's kind of far from school, but it's okay, sweetheart. I've got some leads." It was a lie, but a necessary one. Amy didn't need to know that their options had dwindled to nearly nothing. After Amy went to bed, Gloria sat in the dim light of her desk lamp, surrounded by rental listings she couldn't afford and job postings she wasn't qualified for. The baby kicked, stronger now, as if protesting their uncertain future. A car door slammed outside, and Gloria peeked through the curtains. The Petersons were returning from their weekly dinner out, laughing as they walked to their door. Just last month she and David had joined them. Now Mrs. Peterson turned, caught her watching, and quickly looked away. Gloria let the curtain fall. 30 days. They had 30 days to rewrite their entire lives, to find a way forward in a world that seemed determined to push them out. She touched the eviction notice, its edges worn from repeated handling. Tomorrow she would be strong again, would keep searching for solutions. But tonight, in the quiet of their soon-to-be-lost home, she allowed herself to acknowledge the truth. They were running out of both time and options. The worn suitcase sat on the motel bed like an accusation. Gloria had bought it for their 20th anniversary trip to Hawaii, back when such luxuries seemed normal. Now, it held everything she and Amy could salvage from their former life. Clothes, photos, Amy's favorite books, and the few pieces of jewelry she hadn't yet sold. Room 126 of the Valley View Motel wasn't much, but at $45 a night, it was all they could afford. The wallpaper peeled in corners, the air conditioner rattled like it was on its last breath, and the bathroom light flickered ominously. But it was shelter, at least for now. "Mom!" Amy's voice was small in the dim room. "I don't feel good." Gloria pressed a hand to her daughter's forehead. Another fever. The stress was taking its toll on them both. "Let's get you some soup from the diner, sweetheart." The Paradise Diner sat across the parking lot, its neon sign missing several letters. Gloria guided Amy through the door. The bells jingle announcing their arrival to the nearly empty restaurant. They'd been coming here for dinner most nights. It was cheaper than the vending machines. And the waitress, Marge, sometimes slipped them extra rolls. "Your usual booth, honey?" Marge asked. Her lined face creased with concern. She'd stopped. Asking questions after the first week just brought them extra water and turned a blind eye when they shared a single meal. As they settled into the cracked vinyl booth, Gloria felt a wave of dizziness wash over her. The pregnancy was getting harder to manage, especially with their limited resources. The community clinic had warned her about her blood pressure, but there wasn't much she could do about stress right now. "Evening, Marge," a deep voice called from the entrance. "Coffee, black as usual?" Gloria glanced up to see a tall man in work-worn clothes taking a seat at the counter. His face was weathered but kind, dark hair peppered with grey at the temples. She'd seen him here before, always alone, always quiet. "James, you're late tonight," Marge replied, already pouring his coffee. "Boys giving you trouble?" "Nah, just a broken tractor." "Again," he sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Can't afford a new one, so we keep patching the old girl up." Amy's cough drew Gloria's attention back to their table. She fumbled in her purse for cough syrup, but the bottle was empty. Another expense they couldn't afford. The coughing grew worse, echoing in the quiet diner. Gloria rubbed Amy's back, trying to help her catch her breath. From the corner of her eye she saw the man, James, turn toward them, concern etched on his face. "Here!" His voice was suddenly close, offering a glass of water. "Small sips, sweetheart, it helps." Amy took the water with trembling hands while Gloria whispered thanks. Up close his eyes were a warm brown, filled with something that looked like recognition, not of her face, but of her situation. "I don't mean to intrude," he said softly, but I couldn't help overhearing. My late wife used to swear by honey and lemon. For coughs, I have some fresh honey from our hives if you'd like. He trailed off, perhaps seeing the wariness in Gloria's expression. Too many people had offered help with strings attached. I'm James Wheeler, he added quickly. I have a farm about 20 minutes from here. My boys and I, we keep bees among other things. Before Gloria could respond, Amy's cough returned with force. This time, she couldn't catch her breath at all. Gloria's world narrowed to her daughter's desperate gasps. The sound of Marge calling 911, the feel of James's steady hand on her shoulder as she started to sway. The next few hours passed in a blur of emergency room fluorescent lights and worried doctors. Stress-induced asthma, they said. The prescription they wrote might as well have been for gold, given their financial situation. I can help, James said quietly. He'd followed them to the hospital, had been a steady presence in the waiting room. No strings attached, just one. A parent helping another. Gloria wanted to refuse, her pride warring with necessity, but Amy's pale face and labored breathing made the decision for her. The pharmacy was about to close when they arrived. James handled the transaction while Gloria held Amy close, trying not to think about how quickly they'd gone from giving charity at church to accepting it from strangers. You're staying at the Valley View? James asked as they walked back to their cars. When Gloria nodded, he seemed to wrestle with something before continuing. Look, I know this might sound strange, but I have a proposition for you. Gloria stiffened, but his next words surprised her. My farm needs help. Real help, not just casual labor. The books are a mess. The house hasn't seen a woman's touch since Sarah, my wife, passed 3 years ago, and my boys. He paused, emotion crossing his face. They need someone to look after them while I'm working the fields. I have a guest house. It's nothing fancy, but it's clean and private. You and your daughter would be welcome to stay there, in exchange for help around the farm. The offer hung in the air between them. Gloria studied his face, looking for hidden motives, but found only sincerity and something else, a loneliness that mirrored her own. Why? She asked finally. You don't know us. James looked at Amy, who had finally fallen into an exhausted sleep in the car. Because someone helped me once, when Sarah first got sick. Because my boys need more than a tired father can give them. Because... He met her eyes squarely. Because sometimes people just need a chance to start over. Gloria felt tears threatening. I'm pregnant, she said, the words coming out like a confession. Due in 4 months. I know, he replied simply. The guest house has 2 bedrooms, plenty of room for a nursery. The neon lights of the Valley View flickered in the distance, a reminder of how far they'd fallen. Amy's breathing was still raspy, but easier now with the medication. Tomorrow, they'd have to figure out how to pay for the hospital bill, how to make their dwindling funds last another week. Think about it, James said, writing his number on a scrap of paper. No pressure, just think about it. That night, in their musty motel room, Gloria held the paper like it was a lifeline. Through the thin walls, she could hear Amy's breathing, still labored but stable. The baby kicked, a reminder of the approaching future she still couldn't figure out how to face. She thought of James's offer, of his kind eyes and work-roughened hands, of the way he'd sat with them in the emergency room, quiet but present, of the guest house he'd described with room for a nursery. It could be a mistake, it could be dangerous. But as she looked around the motel room, at their lives packed into a single suitcase, at her sick daughter trying to sleep on sheets that had seen better days, Gloria realized something. Sometimes the biggest risk was not taking one at all. She reached for her phone, her hands steady for the first time in weeks. It was late, but somehow she knew he'd answer. James? About that guest house. The gravel crunched under their tires as Gloria followed James's pickup down the long driveway. Ancient oaks lined the path, their branches creating dappled shadows in the early morning light. The farmhouse emerged gradually, a 2-story white structure with a wraparound porch, weathered but solid. Behind it, fields stretched toward the horizon, green with early summer crops. In the passenger seat, Amy pressed her face against the window. Look, Mum, they have chickens. Indeed, a flock of speckled hens pecked their way across the yard, supervised by a proud rooster. As they parked, Gloria noticed other signs of farm life: a weathered barn, a small greenhouse, the promised beehives in the distance, and what looked like an orchard beyond. Two boys appeared on the porch as James parked his truck. The older one, around 14, stood slightly in front of his younger brother protectively. Both had their father's dark hair and serious eyes. "Boys," James called. "Out, come meet our guests." They approached cautiously. The older boy wore jeans and a faded t-shirt that had seen better days, while the younger one, who looked about 9, clutched what appeared to be a toy tractor. "This is Michael," James introduced the older boy, "and this is Tommy. Boys, this is Mrs. Harrison and her daughter Amy." "Hi," Amy said shyly, staying close to Gloria. Michael nodded politely, but remained reserved. Tommy, however, perked up at seeing another child. "Want to see our chickens? We got new chicks last week." Before anyone could respond, a woman emerged from the house, wiping her hands on a faded apron that had clearly seen years of use. "James Wheeler, you didn't tell me we were having company for breakfast." Her tone was gently scolding, but her smile was warm. "Sorry, Martha." James looked sheepish. "Gloria, Amy, this is Martha. She helps us out a couple days a week. Keeps us from living like complete barbarians." Martha snorted. "Try every day and it's still a losing battle. Come on in, all of you. I just made fresh biscuits." The kitchen was large and sun-filled, with worn linoleum floors and dated appliances, but it was spotlessly clean, and the smell of fresh baking filled the air. Martha gestured them to a big wooden table that looked like it had hosted countless family meals. "Found this in Sarah's hope chest," Martha said quietly to James, touching the apron she wore. "Thought it was time it got some use again." James's eyes softened at the mention of his late wife. He cleared his throat. "The guest house is just past the garden. We can look at it after breakfast, if you'd like." As Martha served up plates of biscuits and eggs, Gloria observed the dynamics around the table. Michael ate quietly, occasionally glancing at her and Amy with uncertain eyes. Tommy chatted eagerly with Amy about the farm animals, his earlier shyness forgotten. James watched it all with a mixture of hope and apprehension that matched her own feelings. "The books are in my office," James mentioned between bites. "Been meaning to organize them properly since Sarah, well, for a while now. Martha does her best, but with all her other duties—" "I'm no accountant," Martha interjected, "and these menfolk seem to think stuffing receipts in a drawer counts as bookkeeping." Gloria smiled despite herself. "I worked as a bookkeeper before Amy was born. It shouldn't take too long to sort things out. And the garden needs attention," Martha added. "These boys try, but it's not the same as having someone who knows what they're doing." "Mum's really good with plants," Amy offered. "We had the prettiest roses in our old neighborhood." A shadow crossed her face at the mention of their former home, and Gloria squeezed her hand under the table. After breakfast, James led them to the guest house. It was a small but sturdy structure, with a covered porch and windows that caught the morning light. Inside, the furniture was simple but well-maintained. A small living room with a comfortable-looking couch, a kitchen with basic appliances, and upstairs, 2 bedrooms and a bathroom. "It's not much," James said, watching their faces, "but it's yours if you want it. We can't offer much in wages, but you'd have a place to stay, food from the farm, and whatever Martha cooks extra. Medical insurance too. Farm policy would cover you both as employees." Gloria stood in what could be the nursery, sunlight streaming through the windows. The walls needed paint, the floors needed polish, but she could see the potential more. Importantly, she could see a future here, not just shelter, but purpose. "What do you think, sweetheart?" she asked Amy, who was examining a window seat in the larger bedroom. "Can we really stay here, with the chickens and everything?" James smiled. "The chickens would be part of your job. They need feeding every morning." Amy's eyes lit up. "Can we, Mom? Please?" Gloria looked at James, saw the quiet hope in his expression. This wasn't charity. It was an exchange, an opportunity for both families to help each other heal. "Yes," she said finally. "Yes, we can." "Stay," Gloria woke to the sound of roosters crowing, a stark change from the motel's traffic noise. Dawn was just breaking, painting the guest house windows with soft pink light. In her hand, she held a handful of seeds James had given her yesterday. Their first morning's task was feeding the chickens. "Amy," she called softly, climbing the stairs to her daughter's room. "Time to start our new job." Amy was already awake, sitting by the window seat. She'd slept through the night for the first time in weeks, her breathing clear and steady. "Mom, look! Tommy's already out there." "With the chickens, indeed." The young boy was in the yard, scattering feed with practiced ease. When he saw them emerge from the guest house, he waved enthusiastically. "You gotta throw it in a wide arc," Tommy demonstrated, handing Amy some feed. "And watch out for Roger. He's the rooster. He gets kind of bossy sometimes." Amy giggled as the chickens clustered around her feet, pecking at the scattered seeds. The morning air was crisp and clean, carrying the scent of fresh hay and distant flowers. Gloria watched her daughter's face glow with simple joy, something she hadn't seen since before David left. Martha arrived as they finished with the chickens, carrying a basket of fresh eggs and garden tools. "Thought we might start on that vegetable patch today," she said to Gloria. "These men wouldn't know a weed from a tomato plant if their lives depended on it." The garden was overgrown, but not beyond saving. As they worked, Martha shared stories about the farm's history, about Sarah's prize-winning tomatoes and her famous pepper jelly. "She'd be glad to see this place coming back to life," Martha said softly, showing Gloria how to stake the surviving tomato plants. Inside the main house, Gloria found the office in exactly the state Martha had described. Receipts stuffed in drawers, invoices scattered across the desk, tax documents mixed with children's homework. But beneath the chaos, she could see the bones of a profitable operation. The farm was surviving, but it could be thriving with proper management. "It's a mess, isn't it?" James appeared in the doorway, looking embarrassed. "Sarah handled all this after she got sick. Well, I've been trying, but it's fixable," Gloria assured him, already sorting papers into piles. "Give me a week to set up a proper system." As she worked, she could hear the children outside. Tommy was showing Amy how to collect eggs without spooking the hens, while Michael worked on the tractor nearby. The older boy remained distant, watching them with guarded eyes. Around noon, Martha called everyone in for lunch. The kitchen table was crowded now with 6 people, the conversation a mix of farm business and children's chatter. Gloria noticed how James watched them all, a mixture of hope and uncertainty in his expression. "Michael," he said during a lull, "why don't you show Amy the apple orchard this afternoon? Those trees need checking anyway." Michael looked up from his sandwich. "I've got to fix the tractor." "The tractor can wait. Amy might like to learn about grafting." There was a subtle weight to James's words, not quite an order, but a father's gentle push toward inclusion. Michael sighed but nodded. Later, watching from the garden as Michael led Amy toward the orchard, Gloria felt a flutter of anxiety. Everything here was so different from their old life. The work, the schedule, the responsibilities. What if they couldn't adapt? What if this was another mistake? "Stop worrying." Martha appeared beside her, pressing a glass of lemonade into her hands. "The boys haven't had a mother's influence in 3 years. Michael's just protecting his art. Give him time." The afternoon passed in a blur of activity. Gloria organized files while Amy learned about apple trees. James and Michael worked on the tractor, their quiet conversation drifting through the open window. Tommy flitted between everyone, a bundle of endless energy and questions. By evening, Gloria's back ached from bending over files, and her hands were stained with ink and dirt. But when she looked around their small guest house, now holding their few possessions and fresh flowers Martha had cut for them, she felt something she hadn't in months: hope. "Mom," Amy called from upstairs, "can you help me make a list of chicken names?" Gloria smiled, climbing the stairs to her daughter's room. Through the window, she could see James and his boys heading in for dinner, the sunset painting the farm in shades of gold. They weren't home yet, not quite, but maybe, just maybe, they could be. The broken tractor sat in the barn like a wounded beast, parts scattered across the oil-stained floor. James wiped sweat from his forehead, leaving a streak of grease behind. They'd been at it for hours, but the engine still refused to turn over. "We need a new transmission," Michael said, his voice tight with frustration. "These repairs aren't going to hold much longer." "We can't afford it right now, son. Not with the irrigation system needing work, too." Gloria paused in the barn doorway, ledgers in hand. She spent the morning untangling the farm's finances, and the picture wasn't pretty. The bank account was dangerously low, and the equipment loans were eating up whatever profit the farm made. "James," she called softly, "I have those numbers you asked for." He straightened up, wincing slightly. "That bad, huh?" "Not unfixable, but we need to make some changes." Michael's eyes narrowed at the "we." 2 weeks on the farm, and tensions were starting to surface. The teenager had been civil but cold, especially when Gloria suggested changes to the way things were done. "I've got homework," he muttered, dropping his wrench with a clang that made them both jump. James watched his son go, shoulders slumping. "He's having a hard time with everything." "I know." Gloria did know. She saw it in the way Michael stiffened when she cooked dinner in Sarah's kitchen, in how he avoided the garden she was bringing back to life. Every change felt like an erasure of his mother's memory. Outside, Amy's laughter floated across the yard. She and Tommy were collecting eggs, their daily routine now comfortable and familiar. At least some things were working out. "The irrigation system," Gloria said, opening the ledger. "If we redirect some of the water from the north field, we could save enough to—" A crash from the house interrupted her. They rushed inside to find broken glass on the kitchen floor and Michael standing rigid by the counter. "I was just getting water," he said, but his eyes were fixed on the cookie jar Gloria had moved that morning. Sarah's cookie jar, which had always sat in the exact same spot. "It's fine," Gloria started to say, but Michael cut her off. "No, it's not fine. Nothing's fine. You can't just come in here and change everything. This isn't your house. You're not—" He stopped abruptly, but the unspoken words hung in the air. "You're not my mother." "Michael," James's voice held a warning. "What? It's true. They're only here because you feel sorry for them, just like everyone else does." Gloria felt the words like a physical blow. Behind Michael, Amy stood in the doorway, eyes wide. She'd heard everything. "Amy, wait," but her daughter was already running, screen door slamming behind her. "Now look what you did!" Tommy shouted at his brother, surprising them all with his fury. "They're nice. Why do you have to be so mean?" James stepped forward. "Michael, apologize now." "No." Michael's voice shook. "I won't pretend this is okay. Mom's garden, her kitchen, her recipes, they were supposed to stay the same. You promised nothing would change." He stormed out, leaving them in the wreckage of more than just a broken glass. James moved to follow, but Gloria touched his arm. "Let me." She found Michael in the barn, attacking the tractor with renewed violence. For a moment she just watched him work, seeing not anger but pain in every movement. "Your mother's cookie recipe," she said quietly. "The snickerdoodles. I've never been able to get them quite right." He paused, wrench suspended mid-air. "Martha says Sarah wrote all her recipes in a blue notebook. Maybe you could show me how she made them?" Michael didn't turn around, but his shoulders lost some of their rigidity. "She always said the secret was using real butter and extra cinnamon. Would you teach me? Not to replace her version, just so there can be cookies in the jar again." Finally, he turned. In the dim barn light, she could see the tears he was trying to hide. "I miss her, all the time. I know. And nothing I do is meant to erase her. I promise." They stood in silence for a moment, surrounded by broken machinery that suddenly seemed less important than the fragile thing they were trying to repair. "The transmission," Michael said eventually. I think maybe I know a way to fix it, if you help." It wasn't forgiveness, not quite. But as they bent over the tractor together, Gloria realized it was something just as valuable, a beginning. In the house, they could hear Amy and Tommy's voices again, the screen door's familiar creak, life moving forward, not erasing the past, but building on it, like new growth from old roots. The aroma of baking cookies filled the farmhouse kitchen, wrapping around them like a warm embrace. Michael stood at the counter, carefully measuring cinnamon while Gloria creamed butter and sugar in Sarah's old mixing bowl. The recipe book lay open between them, its pages spotted with years of use, Sarah's handwriting flowing across the paper in faded ink. She always added an extra pinch, Michael said, demonstrating with practiced fingers. Said it was the secret to making them special. Gloria watched him work, noting how his movements mimicked the notes in the margin. Roll twice in cinnamon sugar mixture. The kitchen felt different today, less like contested territory and more like shared ground. "Mom!" Amy appeared in the doorway, drawn by the scent. "Can I help?" Michael tensed slightly, but then surprised them both. "You can roll them in the sugar mixture if you want. That was always my job when I was little." As Amy joined them, flour dusting her dark hair, Gloria caught sight of James watching from the hallway. His eyes held a mixture of wonder and grief, the pain of seeing his son share Sarah's recipes, warring with the joy of hearing laughter in the kitchen again. "Found these in the attic," Martha announced, entering with a box of old cookbooks. "Thought you might like to see what else Sarah loved to make." The box contained more than cookbooks. There were handwritten notes about the boys' favorite meals, Christmas dinner plans, even a list of foods Michael was allergic to, small pieces of a mother's love preserved in paper and ink. "She kept everything," Michael said softly. Touching a birthday cake recipe marked Michael's favorite, chocolate with extra frosting. "My mum used to make this too." Amy pointed to a recipe for apple crisp. "But we used more cinnamon." "Really?" Michael's interest seemed genuine. "Mom always said you couldn't have too much cinnamon." They worked through the afternoon, the kitchen filling with the scent of memories and new possibilities. Tommy wandered, in and out, snitching cookie dough when he thought no one was looking. Even James joined them eventually, sharing stories about Sarah's legendary holiday baking. "Remember the Christmas she tried to make gingerbread houses for the whole church?" He chuckled. "We were finding icing in odd places for weeks." As the first batch came out of the oven, golden brown and perfect, Michael handed one to Gloria. "Try it," he said. "Tell me if they're like hers." The cookie melted on her tongue, warm and spicy sweet. "They're wonderful. You've done her proud." His eyes glistened, but he managed a small smile. Maybe next time we could try her chocolate chip recipe. She had this special way of making them." "I'd like that," Gloria said softly. Later, as they cleaned up, Martha pulled out one more item from the box, a handwritten note that made her gasp softly. "James," she called, "you need to see this." The paper was dated just weeks before Sarah passed away. "My dearest family," it began, "when you find this, I hope you're ready to read it. I know there will be hard days ahead, days when grief feels too heavy to bear. But please remember, love isn't a finite resource. It grows like our garden with care and attention. Don't be afraid to plant new seeds of joy, to let happiness bloom again. You deserve every happiness, my darlings, even the ones I won't. Be here to share." James's hands shook as he read. Michael pressed close to his father's side, while Tommy wrapped his arms around his brother's waist. Gloria started to step back, feeling like an intruder, but James caught her hand. "Stay," he said quietly. "Please." They stood together in the kitchen, the scent of fresh cookies mixing with the weight of Sarah's words. Amy slipped her small hand into Michael's, and for once he didn't pull away. "There's more," Martha said gently, turning the paper over. "P.S. And when you're ready, make sure whoever ends up in my kitchen knows about the loose floorboard under the sink. That's where I hide the extra chocolate chips." Tommy immediately dove for the sink, making them all laugh through their tears. Sure enough, there was a stash of chocolate chips, somehow preserved all this time. "Mom always knew," Michael said, his voice thick with emotion. "She always knew what we'd need." Gloria felt the baby kick, a reminder of the new life growing, alongside these tender shoots of healing. Outside, the summer evening was settling over the farm, painting everything in soft gold. The cookie jar sat in its proper place, full once again, bridging past and present with sweet remembrance. "Well," Martha said practically, wiping her eyes, "these dishes won't wash themselves. Tommy, you're on drying duty." As they fell into the comfortable rhythm of cleanup, Gloria noticed Michael carefully placing Sarah's recipe book back on its shelf, not with grief now, but with gentle reverence. Then he turned and handed Amy the dish towel, showing her the proper way to dry Sarah's mixing bowl. Small steps, Gloria thought. Small steps toward healing, like seeds taking root in fertile ground. The weather-beaten barn loomed against darkening skies as James studied the approaching storm front. The Weather Service had issued warnings all morning, severe thunderstorms with possible tornado activity. In the valley, such warnings weren't taken lightly. "Michael!" he called out. "Help me get the animals secured!" Gloria watched from the farmhouse porch as father and son worked in synchronized efficiency, their recent tensions forgotten in the face of immediate danger. Her hand rested on her swollen belly, 7 months now, and the baby was active today, as if sensing the electricity in the air. "Mom!" Amy's voice wavered. "Are we going to be okay?" Before Gloria could answer, Martha burst through the screen door. "Weather Service just upgraded the warning. We've got maybe an hour. James!" She raised her voice over the rising wind. "The root cellar ready?" The root cellar, a remnant from the farm's early days, had served as a storm shelter for generations. Gloria had only seen it once, when James had shown her the farm's emergency protocols. Now, watching the threatening sky, she was grateful for such foresight. "Tommy, help Amy gather the emergency supplies," Martha directed. "Flashlights, radio, water, you know the drill." The children disappeared inside, while Michael and James secured the last of the livestock. The wind was picking up, bending the old oak trees and sending loose items skittering across the yard. "Gloria!" James jogged up to the porch, his face grave. "The barn roof, that patch we've been meaning to fix, it might not hold." She knew what that meant. The barn held not just equipment, but the winter feed, crucial supplies, and the new tractor parts they'd finally managed to order. "If the roof went, we've got tarps in the shed," Michael said, already moving. "If we layer them—" A massive thunderclap cut him off, making them all jump. The first heavy drops began to fall. "No time," James decided. "Everyone to the cellar. Now!" But Michael was already running toward the shed, Tommy instinctively following his brother. James cursed under his breath, torn between following his sons and getting the others to safety. "Go!" Gloria pushed him toward the boys. "Martha and I will handle the cellar. Just hurry!" The rain was coming sideways now as Gloria helped Martha guide Amy toward the cellar entrance. The girl was crying, but moving steadily. Through the deluge, Gloria could see James and his sons fighting with the tarps, trying to secure them over the barn's weak spot. "Down you go, honey." Martha helped Amy onto the cellar steps. "Gloria, you next." "I can't," Gloria started, but Martha cut her off. "You're 7 months pregnant. Down now." A sound like a freight train began to build in the distance. Gloria had never heard anything like it, but Martha's face told her everything she needed to know. "James!" Martha's voice cut through the storm like a knife. "Boys, get in here now!" They came running through the rain, the wind nearly knocking Tommy off his feet. Michael caught his brother, practically carrying him the last few yards. James brought up the rear, pausing only to help Gloria down the steep steps before pulling. The heavy cellar doors shut. The darkness was absolute until Martha found the lantern. Its warm glow revealed their storm shelter, shelves of preserved food, emergency supplies, and a few old chairs. Water trickled down the concrete walls, and the sound of the storm was muffled but still terrifying. Tommy was shaking, pressed between Michael and Amy on an old bench. Without thinking, Gloria wrapped an arm around both of them. This time, Michael didn't pull away. "The barn," he started, "is just a building," James finished firmly. "Everyone here is what matters." The wind howled overhead, making the cellar doors rattle. Amy whimpered, and Tommy reached for her hand. They sat together in the dim light, this makeshift family united by nature's fury. "Sarah always hated storms," Martha said softly, almost to herself. "Used to say they reminded her how small we all are. She'd make hot chocolate after," Michael added unexpectedly, "no matter what time it was. With extra marshmallows," Tommy remembered. The cellar doors shuddered with another gust, but somehow the children's fear had lessened. Gloria felt James's hand find hers in the shadows, strong and steady. They waited out the storm together, sharing stories in the lantern light. When the wind finally died down and the all clear came over the emergency radio, they emerged to assess the damage. The barn roof had partially collapsed, despite their efforts. But as they stood in the muddy yard, watching the sun break through the clouds, Gloria realized something had shifted during those hours underground. Sometimes it took a storm to show you what and who really mattered. The newspaper clipping was yellowed with age, but the headline remained clear: local teacher loses battle with cancer. Gloria found it while helping Martha clean up water damage in the farmhouse's study, tucked inside a book of agricultural records. Sarah's smile beamed from the photograph, taken in her classroom, surrounded by students. "She fought so hard," Martha said softly, noticing what Gloria had found. "Kept teaching right up until the end, said her students gave her strength." The article praised Sarah's 20 years of dedication to her students, her work with the county's literacy program, her volunteer efforts at the library, a life of service cut short at 45. "James never talks about it," Gloria said, carefully returning the clipping to its place. "Men like him carry grief differently, but it's there, in everything he does." Martha paused, looking out the window where James was surveying the barn damage with the insurance adjuster. "The boys, though, they need to talk about it, especially now." As if summoned by their conversation, Michael appeared in the doorway. "Mom's medical bills," he said abruptly. "They're why we can't afford to fix the barn properly, aren't they?" The directness of his question caught them both off guard. Martha reached for him, but he stepped back. "I heard Dad on the phone with the insurance company. They mentioned outstanding medical liens." His voice cracked slightly. "Why didn't he tell us?" Before either woman could respond, a sharp cry from the garden interrupted them. They rushed outside to find Amy doubled over, face pale with pain. "The baby," she gasped, clutching her stomach. "Something's wrong with Mom's baby." Gloria was by the tomato plants, one hand braced against a post, the other pressed to her belly. The color had drained from her face. "James," Martha's voice carried across the yard, "call an ambulance." The next hours passed in a blur of emergency room fluorescent lights and medical terminology. Preterm labor, the doctors said. Stress, dehydration, overexertion. They managed to stop the contractions, but the warning was clear: bed rest for the remainder of the pregnancy. "I can't," Gloria protested. "The farm, the children, the repairs." "You can, and you will," Martha said firmly. "We'll manage." James stood by the hospital window, his face reflecting the same worry she'd seen in the old photographs after Sarah's diagnosis. "Martha's right. Your health, both of you, that's what matters." Amy sat curled in a chair, trying to make herself small. "Is it my fault? Because I asked Mom to help with the garden?" "No, sweetheart," Michael answered before anyone else could. He'd been quiet since they arrived at the hospital, but now he moved to sit beside Amy. "Sometimes things just happen, like with my mom. It's nobody's fault." The simple wisdom of his words hung in the air. Gloria saw James brush away tears, saw Martha squeeze his shoulder in silent support. That evening, as the hospital settled into its night routine, Gloria found herself alone with Michael. He'd volunteered to take the first watch, while the others went home to check on Tommy. "I saw the article," he said after a long silence. "About Mom." Gloria waited, sensing he needed to speak. "She didn't tell us how bad it was at first. Kept saying she was fine, that she just needed rest." He picked at a loose thread on his jeans. "By the time we knew the truth, it was too late. For the expensive treatments, Dad wanted to mortgage the farm, but she wouldn't let him." "She was protecting you," Gloria said gently. "Yeah." Michael's voice was rough. "But now I wonder, if we'd known sooner, if we'd done something differently." "Oh, Michael." Gloria reached for his hand, and this time he let her take it. "Your mother made her choices out of love, just like your father does now." "I know. It's just..." He gestured at her hospital bed. "When you collapsed today, it was like watching Mom all over again. And we can't... I'm going to be fine," Gloria assured him. "The baby, too. We just need to be careful." He nodded, but his grip on her hand tightened. "Promise you'll tell us if something's wrong. No pretending everything's okay when it's not?" The request contained all his unspoken fear, all the trauma of watching one mother fade away. Gloria felt the weight of his trust, as precious and fragile as the life growing inside her. "I promise," she said. "No secrets, no pretending." Outside, the window, a summer storm was building again, but this time they faced it together, the shadows of the past serving not to separate them, but to bind them closer in understanding. The legal documents arrived on a Tuesday, delivered by a courier, who seemed out of place on the dusty farm road. Gloria was resting on the porch swing, following doctor's orders for bed rest, when the sleek black car pulled up. Her heart recognized trouble before her mind processed why. "Mrs. Harrison?" The courier approached with a thick envelope. "You've been served." Inside, her hands trembling, Gloria found divorce papers and a custody motion. David's elegant signature graced the bottom of both documents, as pristine as the day he'd signed their marriage certificate. But it was the attached letter that made her blood run cold. "Given your unstable living situation and high-risk pregnancy, I'm seeking immediate temporary custody of Amy. Living on a struggling farm with strangers is no environment for our daughter." "Gloria!" James's voice came from behind her. "You're white as a sheet." She wordlessly handed him the papers. His face darkened as he read, jaw tightening with each page. "That son of a—" He caught himself. "Does Amy know he's doing this?" "Mom!" As if summoned by her name, Amy appeared in the doorway. "Was that car from Dad? Did he send something for my birthday?" Gloria's heart clenched. In all the recent chaos, she'd almost forgotten. Amy's 13th birthday was next week. David hadn't even mentioned it in his filing. "Come here, sweetheart." Gloria patted the swing beside her. "We need to talk." But before she could continue, another car appeared on the horizon. This one Gloria recognized. The silver Mercedes David had bought himself as a business investment last year. Her hands instinctively went to her belly, protective. "James," she started to rise, but he gently pressed her back down. "Stay put. Doctor's orders." "Martha," he called toward the house. "We've got company." Martha appeared, took one look at the approaching car, and nodded grimly. "Michael, take Amy and Tommy to the back garden now." "But that's my dad's car," Amy protested. "I want to—" "Please, honey," Gloria squeezed her daughter's hand. "Just for a little while." Michael, showing a maturity beyond his years, gently guided Amy away. "Come on, I'll show you how the new chicks are doing." David emerged from his car like a businessman arriving for a hostile takeover, crisp suit unwrinkled despite the long drive. A younger woman, Melissa, Gloria presumed, stayed in the passenger seat, hidden behind designer sunglasses. "Well," David's smile didn't reach his eyes. "This is quaint. Hello, Gloria. You're looking rather peaked. The country air not agreeing with you?" "What do you want, David?" Her voice was steadier than she felt. "To protect my daughter. I've been patient, allowed this little adventure of yours. But living in a guest house on a failing farm, with strangers, while you're in and out of the hospital—" He shook his head. "No judge will find this suitable." "You've got some nerve!" James stepped forward, but Martha caught his arm. "And you are?" David raised an eyebrow. "James Wheeler, the stranger who's been making sure your pregnant wife and a daughter have a roof over their heads while you ran off with—" He gestured to the car. "My personal life is none of your concern." David's polished veneer cracked slightly. "What concerns me is my daughter living in poverty while this farm drowns in medical debt." "Oh yes," he smiled at their surprise. "I had my lawyer do some digging. Quite a paper trail your late wife left." James lunged forward, but Martha's grip held firm. "Don't give him what he wants," she warned. "I'm taking Amy back to Phoenix," David continued. "She'll have her own room in our new house, a proper school, stable parents." "Stable?" Gloria's laugh held no humor. "You abandoned us, emptied our accounts, left me pregnant and Amy heartbroken, and now you want to talk about stability? A regrettable situation. But I've grown. Melissa and I are married now. We can provide Amy with a proper family environment." The screen door creaked, and they all turned to see Amy standing there, face streaked with tears. She'd heard everything. Amy, honey, David's voice turned gentle. I've missed you so much. Look, I brought your birthday present early. He reached into his car, withdrew a wrapped package. But Amy backed away. You left us, her voice shook. Mom was sick and scared and you left us. And now you want to take me away from here? From my friends? From... She looked at Michael and Tommy hovering uncertainly behind her. From my brothers? Brothers, David scoffed. They're not your family, Amy. This isn't your home. This is just somewhere you've been staying, like a long vacation. But it's time to come back to reality. No, Amy's voice grew stronger. This is my home. These are my chickens and my garden and my family. You can't just decide to want me again when it's convenient. Amy, David's voice hardened. This isn't up for discussion. Pack your things. We're leaving today. The hell she is? James stepped forward again. You want to talk legal? Fine. Gloria's legally employed here. This is legally her residence. Amy's enrolled in the local school. You want to change any of that, you do it through the courts. Oh, I will. David straightened his tie. And when the judge hears about the living conditions, the financial situation, the medical risks, well, I've already filed for emergency custody. Expect a hearing date soon. He turned to Amy, who had pressed herself against Gloria's side. I'll see you soon, Princess. Melissa's already decorated your room. As the Mercedes disappeared down the drive, Gloria felt her carefully constructed world starting to crack. But then she felt other hands steadying her. Martha's weathered grip, James's calloused palm, Michael and Tommy's smaller fingers finding places to hold. He can't, Amy was crying now. He can't take me away. Mum, please. Shh. Gloria pulled her close, feeling her daughter's tears soak through her dress. We'll fight this, all of us. Damn straight we will. Martha's voice was steel. James, call Sarah's cousin, the one who practices family law. Michael, Tommy, go get those photo albums, the ones with all the pictures since Gloria and Amy arrived. And you, she pointed at Gloria, back to bed rest. We'll handle this. As the family mobilized around her, Gloria felt the baby kick, strong and steady, like a tiny vote of confidence. David had underestimated them, she realized. He saw a failing farm, a makeshift family, a desperate situation. He didn't understand that sometimes the strongest bonds were forged in desperate times, that family wasn't about perfect houses or stable bank accounts, but about who stood beside you in the storm. Mom, Amy's voice was small. Can I stay with you tonight, like when I was little? Of course, baby. Gloria stroked her daughter's hair. We're not going anywhere, any of us. Later that night, Gloria heard quiet voices in the kitchen. James and Michael discussing plans for the farm's finances, ways to prove their stability. Martha on the phone with Sarah's cousin, laying out their case. Tommy sneaking extra cookies to Amy, his own form of comfort. This was what David couldn't understand, what no court document could fully capture, the simple, unshakable strength of a family chosen, not born. A family built on shared struggles and midnight conversations, on garden vegetables and chicken coops, on storms weathered. Together, they would fight and they would win. Because some bonds, once forged, couldn't be broken by all the legal papers in the world. The property deed sat on the kitchen table, its edges worn from frequent handling. Sarah's cousin Rachel, now their lawyer, studied it carefully while explaining their options. The farm's property value gives us leverage, she said, pushing her reading glasses up. James, by offering Gloria and Amy a permanent residence here, you're demonstrating substantial financial stability. But David's lawyer will argue it's not our property to offer, James worried, with the medical liens, which are being responsibly managed through a payment plan, Rachel countered. Courts look favorably on honest effort over pure financial strength. What they care about is stability, community roots, and the child's best interests. Gloria sat quietly, one hand resting on her belly, the other clutching Amy's latest school report. All A's, with a special commendation for her science project on sustainable farming. Evidence, Rachel had said, of Amy thriving in her new environment. Mrs. Peterson called, Martha announced, entering with a fresh pot of coffee. The church. In council wants to help. They're preparing character witness statements about David's abandonment and Gloria's involvement in the community. The same people who had once shunned them were now rallying to their defense. The irony wasn't lost on Gloria. "And I've got something," Michael spoke up from the doorway. He'd been unusually focused since David's visit, spending hours in the farm office. The farm's financial records since Mom got sick, every payment, every sacrifice Dad made. And now he spread out a series of spreadsheets, carefully organized. Look at the improvements since Gloria came: better bookkeeping, new supplier contracts, grants for sustainable farming practices. "We're not just surviving anymore, we're growing," Rachel smiled, adding the documents to her file. "This is exactly what we need. Not just finances, but proof of positive change. Amy's clearly part of a functional, supportive family unit here." "Can I speak at the hearing?" Amy asked suddenly. "Tell the judge what I want?" "Sweetheart, you don't have to," Gloria began. But Rachel interrupted. "Actually, at your age, the court will consider your preferences." "But are you sure?" Amy straightened in her chair. "Dad thinks he can buy me back with fancy presents and a new room, but he doesn't understand. This is my home now. These are my people." Through the window, they could see Tommy in the garden, carefully tending the tomato plants Gloria couldn't manage during her bed rest. He'd taken on the responsibility without being asked, determined to keep his new family's garden alive. "There's something else," James said quietly. "I've been thinking, Rachel, what if we amended the property deed? Added Gloria's name? If so." Room fell silent. Even Martha stopped pouring coffee. "James," Gloria breathed, "you can't." "I can. I want to. This isn't just about the custody case. You and Amy, your family now. The farm should reflect that." Michael nodded slowly. "Mom would want this. She always said the farm was meant to shelter people who needed it." Rachel was already pulling out forms. "It's a strong move legally and personally. Shows permanent commitment to Amy's welfare." As they discussed details, Gloria watched the interplay of sunlight and shadow on the deed. Such a simple piece of paper, yet it held so much meaning. Like the recipe book in the kitchen, like Sarah's letter in the root cellar, it was another thread binding them together. "Besides," Martha added with a practical sniff, "somebody's got to keep this place running when James's back gives out. Lord knows these boys can't manage the books." The laughter that followed broke the tension, reminding them all that they weren't just building a legal defense. They were protecting a family that had formed in the midst of both their losses. That evening, as fireflies began to dance over the fields, they gathered on the porch. Amy sat between Michael and Tommy, planning their testimonies for court. Martha served iced tea and sugar cookies, while Rachel reviewed their strategy one last time. Gloria felt James's steady presence beside her on the porch swing. "You don't have to do this," she said softly. "Add my name to the deed. We can fight." "This another way?" "Yes, I do." His voice was firm. "Not for the court case, for us, all of us." He was right, she realized. They weren't just standing their ground against David. They were claiming it together, making official what their hearts already knew. This was home. These were their people, and no force, legal or otherwise, would tear them apart. The property deed was just paper, but the bond it represented was unshakable as the old oak trees that lined the drive, roots deep and branches reaching toward tomorrow's light. The stack of old letters lay scattered across Rachel's desk, each one a piece of damning evidence. Gloria's hands shook as she read them. Correspondence between David and his real estate partners dating back 18 months before he left. "He was planning it all along," she whispered. "The Phoenix office, the new house, everything." Rachel nodded grimly. "These letters prove he was transferring assets long before he left. Hidden accounts, property in Arizona, even the timing of your pregnancy. He knew about the baby when he started moving money." The revelation hit Gloria like a physical blow. All those prenatal appointments he'd attended, his seemingly genuine excitement about their miracle baby. It had all been an act, buying time while he arranged his escape. "There's more," Rachel continued, pulling out bank statements. "The money he took, it wasn't just your joint savings. He leveraged Amy's. College fund as collateral for his new business venture, technically illegal since the account was in trust. Martha, who had insisted on accompanying Gloria to the lawyer's office, muttered something that sounded distinctly uncomplimentary. "That man better hope I never get my hands on him." A knock at the door interrupted them. Michael stood there, looking uncertain. "Dad sent me to drive you home, Gloria. Said you shouldn't be out too long with—" He gestured vaguely at her expanded belly. "Perfect timing," Rachel said. "I think we've found what we need." The drive back to the farm was quiet. Gloria lost in thought while Michael handled the truck with careful attention. Finally, he spoke. "Is it bad, what you found?" "Bad enough," Gloria admitted. "Your father says I shouldn't worry about the details, but we're family now," Michael said firmly. "That means we share the burdens." The simple truth of his statement brought tears to her eyes. Hormones, she told herself, but knew it was more than that. They arrived home to find an unexpected scene. James and Tommy washing windows, while Amy sat on the porch, reading aloud from one of Sarah's old books to the social worker who had come for a home evaluation. "And Mom's teaching me about the business side," Amy was saying enthusiastically. "I'm learning Excel and everything. Michael says I'm better at it than he is." The social worker, Mrs. Chen, according to her badge, made another note on her pad. She looked up as Gloria approached. "Mrs. Harrison, perfect timing. Amy was just telling me about her life here." "It's my home," Amy said with quiet certainty. "My real home." Mrs. Chen's eyes softened as she observed the scene. James and Tommy's obvious pride in their cleaning efforts, Michael helping Gloria. Up the porch steps, Martha emerging from the kitchen with a plate of cookies that had become Amy's specialty. "I can see that," she said, making one final note. Very clearly, later that evening, after Mrs. Chen left with a file full of observations and a tin of cookies Amy had insisted she take, the family gathered in the living room. Gloria knew she needed to share what they'd discovered about David, but the words stuck in her throat. James seemed to sense her struggle. "Whatever it is, we face it together." So she told them about David's long-term planning, the hidden accounts, the misuse of Amy's college fund. She watched her daughter's face crumple, then harden with each revelation. "He never loved us at all, did he?" Amy's voice was small, but steady. "Oh, sweetheart." Gloria reached for her. "I think he loved the idea of us, the perfect family, the successful image. But real love stays. Real love faces problems together. Real love builds things," Michael added unexpectedly. "Like Mom and Dad built this farm, like we're all building our family now." Tommy, who had been unusually quiet, suddenly spoke up. "Does this mean Amy gets to stay, for sure?" "It certainly helps our case," Martha said. "No judge worth their salt would ignore this kind of evidence." "But it's not just about winning the case anymore, is it?" James looked around. "At all of them. It's about standing up for what's right, for what family really means." Gloria watched Amy lean against Michael, saw Tommy's protective hover, felt James's steady presence beside her. The truth about David hurt, would always hurt probably, but it had also freed them. In trying to destroy what they had, he had only proven how real and valuable it was. "Martha," she said suddenly, "do you still have Sarah's old recipe for victory cake?" Martha's eyes twinkled. "The one with 3 kinds of chocolate? I believe I do." "Good," Gloria smiled, "because I think it's time we celebrated our family. All of it. The past we honor, the present we're grateful for, and the future we're building." As they moved to the kitchen, the letters and their painful revelations remained on the coffee table, acknowledged but no longer powerful. Sometimes truth brought pain, but it also brought clarity, and in that clarity they had found their strength. The half-finished baby blanket lay in Gloria's lap, its soft yellow yarn, a stark contrast to the stark white courthouse corridor. Her fingers worked the needles mechanically, trying to keep her mind off the closed doors ahead where Amy was giving her testimony to the judge and chambers. "She'll be fine," Martha whispered, though her own hands were twisted in her apron. "That girl knows her own mind." James paced the hallway while Michael and Tommy sat against the wall, both unnaturally still. They'd all dressed in their best clothes. James in the suit he'd worn to Sarah's funeral, the boys in pressed shirts that already showed signs of nervous fidgeting. A sharp pain made Gloria gasp, dropping a stitch. She'd been feeling twinges all morning, but this one felt different. Just stress, she assured Martha's worried look. The baby's not due for 2 more weeks. Down the hall, David sat with his lawyer and Melissa, all pristine suits and confident postures. He'd tried to speak to Amy earlier, but she'd walked past him without a word, head high, clutching the folder that contained her prepared statement. Another pain gripped Gloria, stronger this time. Martha's eyes narrowed. "How long have you been having these pains?" "It's nothing, we can't, not today. Amy needs her mother healthy," Martha cut her off. "How far apart?" Before Gloria could answer, the chamber doors opened. Amy emerged, eyes red but chin firm. The judge, a stern-looking woman in her 60s, followed. "We'll resume after lunch," she announced. "Mrs. Harrison, are you all right?" Gloria tried to stand, to assure everyone she was fine, but her body had other plans. The pain that ripped through her this time left no room for doubt. "The baby," she managed through gritted teeth. "It's coming." The corridor erupted in motion. David's lawyer immediately objected. "Your Honor, this is clearly a dramatic ploy to delay proceedings," while James was already on his phone, calling an ambulance. "Court is adjourned," the judge declared firmly. "We'll reconvene when—" "No!" Gloria grabbed Amy's hand. "Please, we can't stop now. If we delay, David could—" Another contraction cut off her words. Through the haze of pain, she heard multiple voices arguing, "This is ridiculous." David's lawyer, "Mom, please." Amy, "The hospital's only 10 minutes. James, "Your Honor, I move to—" David, "Enough." The judge's voice cut through the chaos. "Mr. Harrison, unless you want to explain to the Bar Association why you prioritized a custody hearing over your pregnant wife's medical emergency, I suggest you stop talking. Mrs. Harrison is going to the hospital. Now." But Gloria's water chose, that moment to break, making the decision for all of them. "No time," Martha announced, taking charge. "This baby's coming now. Michael, get the first aid kit from the security desk. Tommy, find all the clean towels you can. James, clear that conference room. Your Honor," the judge was already holding the door open. "I've got 6 grandchildren. 3 born in less conventional places than this. What do you need?" What followed was a blur of pain and voices and movement. Gloria found herself in the conference room, Martha and the judge, transforming the formal space into a makeshift delivery room with remarkable efficiency. "Amy!" Gloria called between contractions. "Amy, stay!" Her daughter gripped her hand. "I'm here, Mom. We all are." Through pain-clouded eyes, Gloria saw she was right. James stood guard at the door, keeping the lawyers at bay. Michael ran errands for Martha, face pale but determined. Tommy had appointed himself Amy's support, holding her other hand and offering running commentary that somehow made everything both worse and better. "Look, Mom, the baby's going to be born in a real court. Maybe it'll grow up to be a lawyer, or a judge, or—" "Tommy," Michael groaned, not helping. But Gloria found herself laughing despite the pain, even as another contraction seized her. This was her family, imperfect, improvisational, absolutely real. Gloria, Martha's voice, was calm but urgent. "This baby's not waiting for anyone's schedule. When I say push, the next minutes were a symphony of encouragement. You've got this, Mom. Breathe. Just like we practiced. The head's coming. One more big push. She's doing great, Your Honor. Almost there, Gloria." And then, cutting through it all, a new sound, strong, indignant, absolutely perfect. "It's a girl," Martha announced, wrapping the tiny figure in what looked suspiciously like James's suit jacket. "Born in the presence of a judge. That's got to be good luck." Gloria reached for her daughter, both daughters now, as tears streamed down her face. Amy pressed close, staring in wonder at her baby sister. "She's so small," she whispered. "Hi, little sister. I'm going to take care of you forever." The judge, who had assisted Martha with remarkable composure, smiled at the scene. "Well, young lady, it seems you've gained a rather powerful piece of evidence for your testimony, Your Honor." David's voice came from the doorway, He'd pushed past James, staring at the tableau before him with an unreadable expression. "Not now, Mr. Harrison," the judge said firmly, "but I will say this. I've been hearing cases for 30 years. Testimony tells me facts, but moments like this, they show me truth. I've seen more real family in this room in the last hour than in 100 conventional custody cases." She turned to David, her expression stern. The kind of family that drops everything to help bring a new life into the world. The kind that thinks of mother and child before legal advantage. The kind that knows blood is just the beginning of what makes people belong to each other. Consider that carefully before we reconvene. The ambulance arrived soon after, its crew efficiently transferring mother and baby for the trip to the hospital. As they wheeled Gloria out, she saw David standing alone in the corridor, Melissa nowhere in sight. "Her name is Sarah," Gloria said softly as they passed him. "Sarah Martha Harrison Wheeler, and she was born into love." The courthouse corridors would remember that day, the day a baby was born in Conference Room B, attended by a judge, a housekeeper, and a makeshift family that proved itself more real than any legal document could define. And if the judge happened to be bouncing a newborn while signing certain custody papers the next day, well, that was just justice finding its natural balance. The birth certificate lay pristine on the hospital tray, waiting for signatures. "Sarah Martha Harrison Wheeler," it proclaimed in official black type, with spaces below for both parents' names. James stared at it, pen hovering uncertainly over the father line. "You don't have to," Gloria said softly from the bed where she cradled their newborn daughter. "The symbolism of her name is enough." "Yes, I do." His voice was firm. "If we're a family, we're a family all the way." The door opened as he signed, admitting a parade of visitors. Amy led the charge, followed by Michael and Tommy, all three jostling to get the best view of their baby sister. Martha brought up the rear with an enormous basket of necessities she deemed essential for proper baby care. "The judge called," Martha announced, arranging her offerings around the room. "She's ready to deliver her ruling whenever you're strong enough to return to court." Gloria tightened her hold on Sarah reflexively. After 3 days in the hospital, the reality of the custody battle had seemed almost distant, cushioned by the joy of new life. But now, "I'll go," Amy said suddenly. Everyone turned to look at her, to hear the ruling. Just me. "Mum needs to rest with Sarah and—" She took a deep breath. "I'm not scared anymore. I know where I belong." James stepped forward. "You don't have to face this alone." "I'm not alone." Amy smiled. "I have my brothers, right?" Michael and Tommy straightened immediately. "Right," they said in unison. "Well then," Martha adjusted her apron decisively, "let's get you all properly dressed. Can't have the judge thinking we don't respect her court." An hour later, Gloria watched from her hospital bed as Martha herded the children toward the courthouse. James stayed behind, claiming someone needed to guard their newest family member, but Gloria suspected he knew she needed his strength today. "Tell me about Sarah," she said softly, watching their daughter sleep. "Your Sarah. What would she think of all this?" James was quiet for a long moment. "She'd laugh, I think, about the baby being born in a courthouse. She always did have a sense of humor about life's bigger moments." He touched the baby's tiny hand. "But mostly, she'd be glad. She knew, at the end, she knew the boys would need more family someday. More love." "James Wheeler." Martha's voice came from the doorway, making them both jump. "Stop mooning over that baby and get down to the courthouse. The judge is ready, and your family needs you. But Gloria will be just fine with me and this little angel. Go, be there for Amy." James hesitated, then leaned down to kiss first Sarah's forehead, then Gloria's. "Whatever happens," he whispered, "we face it together." The next hour was the longest of Gloria's life. She nursed Sarah, changed her, sang every lullaby she could remember, all while watching the clock with agonizing slowness. Finally, Martha's phone buzzed. The old woman read the message, tears springing to her eyes. "Well?" Gloria could barely breathe. "They're on their way back, all of them, and Gloria, they're smiling." The family burst through the door 15 minutes later, Amy in the lead. Her face shone with joy as she carefully climbed onto the bed, mindful of her baby sister. "The judge said I get to stay," she announced, "forever. And Dad withdrew his petition, said he could see that my home was here now." "He looked different," Michael added, "like maybe he finally understood." "He cried," Tommy contributed, earning an elbow from his brother. "What?" "He did." James sat on the edge of the bed, gathering them all close. "The judge was very clear. She said she'd never seen a clearer case of what real family means. Said sometimes the families we choose are more precious than the ones we're born to. She also said," Amy continued, "that Dad can visit if I want, but I get to decide when and how. And she made him agree to restore my college fund and pay child support," Martha added with satisfaction. "Proper child support for both girls." Gloria looked around at her family, her chosen, cherished, absolutely real family. Amy snuggled close on one side, the boys hovering protectively nearby. James held Sarah, looking at the tiny girl with a father's pure love. Martha stood in the doorway like a guardian angel, already making lists of what needed doing at home. Home, the farm with its weathered barn and thriving garden. The kitchen where they baked Sarah's recipes and made new memories. The fields where their children played and grew together. "Oh," Amy sat up suddenly, "we forgot to tell you the best part." After court, Michael and Tommy asked the judge something special. The boys shuffled their feet, suddenly shy. "Asked her what?" Gloria encouraged. "If," Michael cleared his throat, "if we could change our names too. Add Harrison, like Sarah, so we'd all match, all of us." "The Wheeler-Harrison family," Tommy declared proudly. "That's what the judge wrote on the final papers." Gloria felt tears spill down her cheeks. Happy tears, healing tears. James wrapped his free arm around her while Sarah slept peacefully, unaware she'd been born into such a tangle of love. "Martha," Gloria called softly, "would you get Sarah's baby blanket from my bag, the one I was knitting at court?" The blanket was finally finished, its soft yellow wool adorned with a pattern of intertwined hearts. Gloria had completed it during her hospital stay, weaving her hopes and dreams into every stitch. "It's beautiful," Amy touched it reverently. "It's like us," Tommy observed, "all the hearts connected together. Look," Michael pointed to the corner. There, carefully stitched in blue thread, were the words, "Sarah Martha Harrison Wheeler, born into love." "And under that," Gloria said softly, "we'll add all our names, the whole family." Outside the hospital window, a summer storm was building. Not a destructive force this time, but a cleansing rain, washing the world clean for new beginnings. Gloria thought of another storm, months ago, that had driven them into the root cellar and first showed them how strong they could be together. "So," Martha's practical voice cut through the emotion, "shall we take these girls home? That nursery won't paint itself, and I believe we have a family celebration to plan. Home." They were going home, all of them, together. Not to a house built on false promises like David's, but to a home built on love and choice and the daily decision to be family to each other. Sarah woke and began to fuss. Without being asked, Amy fetched a diaper while Michael adjusted the pillows behind Gloria's back. Tommy regaled them with his plans for being the world's best big brother, while James and Martha debated the logistics of getting everyone home safely. Just another moment in the life of the Wheeler-Harrison family. Imperfect, wonderful, and absolutely true. 1 year later, the family portrait hung in pride of place above the farmhouse fireplace, captured on Sarah's first birthday. The whole Wheeler-Harrison family smiled back from within the frame. James and Gloria in the center, baby Sarah reaching for the camera with flour-dusted hands from her mother's lap. Amy and the boys clustered close, their faces bright with laughter at their baby sister's antics. Even Martha had been coaxed into the photo, standing proudly behind them all like a guardian angel. The occasion for the portrait had been more than just Sarah's birthday. Earlier that day, James and Gloria had quietly exchanged vows in the garden Sarah Sr. had loved so much, surrounded by blooming flowers and thriving vegetables. No formal ceremony, just family, a few close friends, and promises spoken from the heart. "Look what I found," Amy called from the attic, where she was helping Michael sort through old boxes. She emerged with a dusty photo album, its pages filled with pictures of another wedding years ago. "Your mom was beautiful," she told Michael, studying a photo of Sarah in her wedding dress. "Yeah," Michael smiled, no pain in his voice now. "She'd have loved today, especially the cake disaster." They all laughed, remembering how baby Sarah had face-planted into her birthday cake, requiring an emergency bath and costume change before the wedding. The farm had flourished over the year, much like the family that called it home. The barn roof was finally properly repaired, the medical bills were steadily being paid off, and the garden produced enough to supply not just their family, but a small farmer's market stall as well. David kept his distance, but sent regular letters to Amy, slowly rebuilding their relationship on her terms. He'd even attended Sarah's birthday party briefly, bringing a gift and awkward but genuine congratulations for the wedding. "Time for dinner," Martha's voice carried from the kitchen, where she was teaching Tommy her secret recipe for victory cake, no longer just for special occasions, but a regular celebration of their everyday joy. Gloria paused in the doorway, taking in the scene. James at the head of the table, Sarah babbling happily in her high chair, Michael and Amy arguing good-naturedly over who would get the last dinner roll while Tommy snuck it to share with Martha. "Penny for your thoughts?" James asked, pulling her close. "Just thinking about that day in the diner," she said softly, "when you offered us shelter. Did you ever imagine that we'd end up here?" "No," he kissed her temple, "but I'm grateful. Every day that we did." "Mom! Dad!" Amy called. "Sarah's trying to feed her peas to the dog again." Gloria laughed, moving to rescue their dinner from their determined youngest. This was home. Not just the farm or the house, but these people. This love, this family they'd built together. Above the fireplace, the family portrait caught the evening light, a testament to the truth they'd all learned, that sometimes the most beautiful things grow from broken pieces, and the strongest families are the ones we choose, nurture and build together, one day at a time.